So, how exactly does something like a venomous snake, one known for its really destructive bite, how does that become what's called a deep acting remedy in medicine? Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into something quite fascinating. William Boericke's homeopathic materia medica,
Ah,
specifically his entry on Cenchris Contortrix. That's the copperhead snake.
right, the copperhead. Quite a substance.
Yeah, and our mission here really is to explore how this classic text lays out the copperhead's unique drug picture, showing us not just let's say, the raw effects, but its profound influence on the human system,
Yeah.
at least as understood by this particular approach to healing.
Mm-hmm.
And just quickly, for anyone maybe less familiar, this book, Homeopathic Materia Medica.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like your typical pharmacy guide, is it?
No, not at all. It's basically a huge compilation of what are called drug provings. These meticulously detail every single symptom, physical, mental, emotional, that a substance can cause in a healthy person. And that forms the blueprint, essentially, for how it might be used therapeutically to treat similar symptoms when someone's ill.
Okay, got it. So let's dive in. What does Boericke tell us about the copperhead?
Well, it's really remarkable, actually. Like a lot of these materia medicas, it paints this complete symptomatic portrait. It goes way beyond just the immediate toxic effects of the venom. It really details its broad influence across mind and body. Boericke starts right off by saying that Cenchris Contortrix, much like other snake poisons he covers, profoundly impacts the whole system.
And he immediately compares it to a couple of big ones in homeopathy, doesn't he? Arsenicum and lechisis. What's the significance there? Why those two specifically? How does that help someone? Like, pinpoint Cenchris.
That's a really sharp question, because these comparisons aren't just random. When he compares Cenchris to arsenicum, he's highlighting things they have in common, like that intense restlessness, maybe difficulty breathing, or thirst, but only for little sips of water.
Mm-hmm.
And then the link to lechisis, which is another snake remedy, well, that points toward that classic aversion to anything tight around the neck or body, any feeling of constriction.
Right.
But what's really crucial, I think, is that these comparisons aren't saying the symptoms are identical, it's about the nuance. They give practitioners these vital clues to tell remedies apart, to find the precise picture that matches the patient's total experience. It suggests a really deep systemic impact, especially on vital functions and the nervous system.
It definitely sounds deep. And the text, it certainly doesn't ignore the mental side of things. It talks about marked alternation of moods, forgetfulness, even vivid dreams, sometimes horrible and lascivious. Now, for many people listening, it might seem like a big jump, connecting venom to these really intricate psychological states. How does Boericke explain that link?
Well, it's really fundamental to the whole homeopathic idea, isn't it? This concept that a substance's influence just permeates every level, physical, mental, emotional. They're all seen as interconnected. So this alternation of moods, for example, isn't just seen as some random symptom. It perfectly illustrates how the materia medica focuses on the dynamic, the fluctuating nature of a patient's state. It's not just looking at isolated, static symptoms.
So it suggests Cenchris might be relevant when someone's feeling internally chaotic, unpredictable.
Exactly, like their internal rhythm needs rebalancing. It's about that dynamic pattern.
And that deep emotional impact often seems to have physical reflections. What does Boericke say about the bodily symptoms? Particularly, I noticed, in the head and eyes. It mentions an aching pain in the left frontal eminence, left-sided teeth too, plus swelling and itching around the eyes.
Yes, and you've keyed into something critical for homeopathic prescribing there, that focus on laterality, the left-sidedness. That kind of specificity immediately helps narrow down the possible remedies.
Specificity is key.
Definitely. But what's really striking, I think, is the description related to the heart. A really profound sensation of distension, almost like the heart is filling the entire chest. Or even stranger, like it's somehow fallen down into the abdomen.
Go into the abdomen. Wow, that's incredibly visceral. That suggests a really deep internal unease.
It does, and he adds more detail. Sharp stitches, a fluttering feeling under the left shoulder blade. It really paints a picture of intense internal disruption.
And then there's a detail I found quite, unexpected. Increased sexual desire in both sexes. It also mentions ineffectual attempts to recline and pain in the right ovarian region. How does this approach account for such a broad, almost scattered range of effects, from organ sensations to libido?
It does challenge our usual way of thinking, doesn't it? But from this homeopathic perspective, everything from a general discomfort when trying to lie down to heightened sexual desire, it's all part of the substance's complete drug picture.
So it's not just targeting one thing.
Exactly. It emphasizes that a remedy isn't aimed at just one organ, it's addressing a total state of imbalance. And that imbalance can manifest in all these diverse ways across the whole system, includes fundamental drives, specific local pains, and that ineffectual attempts to recline, you mentioned. That points to a general worsening, an aggravation from lying down, which is also listed under what they call modalities.
Right, the modalities. That leads perfectly into it. These are the conditions that make symptoms better or worse. Boericke is very specific. Cenchris symptoms are worse from pressure, from lying down, and particularly in the afternoon and at night, which loops right back to that difficulty reclining we just talked about.
Precisely. Modalities are absolutely critical because they define the pattern of the illness or the state. It's not just what the symptom is, but when and how it shows up.
The context.
The context, exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of patterns and connections, the text also draws relationships to other remedies. We already mentioned arsenicum and lechisis, but Boericke also brings in clotho-eryctans, the puff adder. He suggests it might be useful where excessive swelling is a leading feature. It just underscores how each snake venom, even though they share broad characteristics, might have its own distinct therapeutic niche.
That's fascinating. So even within this specific category of snake venoms, you get these really fine-tuned differentiations. And Boericke even gives a recommended potency, 6th potency. Okay, so as we sort of wrap up this deep dive into the copperhead through Boericke's lens, what's the main takeaway for you, for our listener? What does all this ultimately tell us about how we view nature's potent and often quite paradoxical influences?
Well, I think what we've really explored today is a system of medicine that doesn't just react symptom by symptom. It really tries, to understand the holistic picture of a substance's effect on a person. Boericke positions Cenchris Contortrix not just as a dangerous toxin, but as potentially a wonderful restorative and deep-acting remedy.
That phrase really stands out.
It does, and it's a powerful illustration of that core homeopathic principle, like cures, like similibus curantur. The idea that a substance which can produce certain symptoms in a healthy person can be used, usually in very minute doses, to treat similar symptoms when they appear as illness.
Right, the principle of similars.
Exactly. So this deep dive, I think, reveals the incredible specificity with which these older texts like Boericke's catalog the human experience of nature's most powerful substances. It really compels you, doesn't it, to consider how much more there might be to discover about these hidden, sometimes paradoxical properties within the natural world, and also how different ways of thinking about medicine seek to harness them.
It definitely leaves you thinking, what other poisons out there might actually hold unexpected keys to healing?
A provocative thought to end on.